Max Spence Business Podcast. Today I have a very special guest. His name is Sam. He's actually a graduate of Harvard Law, and he's also in the venture capital industry. It's great having you on, Sam.
Hey, good being on, Max. Good to talk.
Awesome. So why don't we jump right into this and start from the beginning of where do you come from in the U.S. and sort of like where'd you go to high school and then university and then getting into Harvard and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I could wrap that all up pretty quickly. So I'm from South Texas. I'm right next to the border. My house was roughly 10 minutes away from the U.S.-Mexico border. So I'm from an area called the Rio Grande Valley. I'm right close to the Reynosa-McAllen border. And that's where people would cross. So yeah, that's where I'm from. As a kid, I was involved in all sorts of crazy things, but most notably, I was a goat herder. So I raised goats for quite some time. I didn't actually come from a farming family, but I grew to love it. This is actually a really interesting story of how I got these goats at all. My family had a 10-acre lease somewhere in Alton, Texas, which is right outside of Mission. And my dad was an attorney in the Valley, and he loved to get paid, of course, as most attorneys do, but he also loved to accept trinkets. Some of those could include a herd of goats. He was super enthused about it. My mom, not so much. But yeah, I herded those goats I herded and raised goats for roughly 6 years. And yeah, I started doing it because he made me, and then I actually loved it, so I continued doing it. So I became obsessed with ag and all things related to ag. I went to UT, graduated from the business honors program there. But while I was there, I decided to write about my experiences as raising goats and a way that I thought could help fight poverty in the Rio Grande Valley, which is a pretty rural area. In some areas now, it's actually grown quite a bit. I'm very proud of all the growth there. But yeah, so I wrote a book about it. It became a #1 Amazon bestseller almost overnight.
Wow.
It was called How Goats Can Fight Poverty. Yeah, I had never considered myself a writer. I still don't. But I was pretty happy that people went for the book. So I got into Harvard Law School soon after, or during my undergrad career. I went right after undergrad. I was there as a 1L, taking all these law classes, and they were great. They were awesome. I mean, I loved my time at Harvard, but I knew pretty quickly that maybe I didn't want to be a traditional lawyer. And so I started writing. That was kind of my way out, always, was to write about things that I cared about things that I did. And I mean, I wrote a lot. So I wrote about elections. I wrote a book with my brother called How a Goat Was Elected Mayor, which is kind of, or How a Goat Became Mayor, which is kind of along the same goat lines. So I did that. That became a bestseller as well. That was a really interesting thing. And I started writing more about immigration as Trump was elected and they started cracking down on immigrants in the state of Texas. So since I'm from the border, I actually do know a lot personally, a lot of immigrants, whether they be undocumented, documented, or otherwise, or recently naturalized citizens. And it really hurt me when these things were happening to immigrants because those were my friends. I know those people, and they may not be that way for some people, and some people have better ways of connecting than others. And I thought, what would be good right now is if I could write about it and show people what's actually happening. And so I wrote my first op-ed for the Austin Statesman. And then since then, I've been published significantly over 20 times for different places, the New York Times, the Washington Post, most recently the Wall Street Journal. I wrote for Forbes for over a year. I wrote for Slate. I published a piece in Slate, sorry. And all sorts of places, the Boston Globe, anything you can think of, a bunch of Texas outlets, all on the topic of immigration. And so those have been, it's been wonderful to write about that. And I wrote about it during law school, and now I write about it now. And it's been wonderful to speak on behalf of those that I know sometimes are mostly relegated to the shadows. And I've been really happy to do so. So that's what I've been writing about. I left law school. I graduated from law school and went to Devoice & Clinton, which is a law firm in New York. I've never really spoken about it publicly, but it was, or my experience there, but it was hard. I mean, being a finance attorney in New York is no one's dream of a vacation.
Yeah.
I learned that pretty quickly on. Fortunately, though, while I was in law school, I started working for Amplo. I met the founder while I was in law school. He was a 3L while I was a 1L, and we hit it off. I started writing for him because he needed a writer, and so I was like, I write stuff. I'm not really a professional, but I can write you some stuff. So I did. He asked if I knew about business and could do more business stuff, and I was like, sure. So I did that, and then towards the end of my law school career, he offered me back to Amplo. And I was like, I would love to, but I made this commitment to this law firm, and my life's all, all over the place. Would you mind if I went to this law firm for a bit? And he was like, sure, we can reevaluate. And thinking that my law firm experience may be different than the others, I went and then found out that it was no different than anyone else's experiences with the law firm. It was tough. I like the people I worked with, but the work was not always great. So
Yeah.
when he offered me back, I took it right away, and I left my law firm. I believe they were not thrilled, but I had a short tenure at the law firm. But I came back to Amplo and have been here for roughly, officially now, for 6 months. I would say that my time at Amplo total is roughly 2 years, if you put them all together,
Yeah.
around there. But yeah, so now I'm a senior associate at Amplo. I get to talk to people like yourself who are working on all sorts of cool things all day, every day. I work maybe as much, if not around the same as I did at the law firm. It's just that my work now is 10 times more interesting. It's 10 times more fulfilling, and I have way more fun.
Wow,
And every day is awesome, truly.
that's crazy. That's absolutely a crazy story. I actually didn't know that you're a huge writer and you published all those books and then became Amazon bestsellers and all that sort of stuff. That's really interesting to find out. So
Yeah.
like you started writing when you were in Harvard Law or when you were in
Yeah.
university? Yeah, Harvard Law.
So, well, I wrote my first book when I was an undergrad, and then I started writing, I guess, like pieces when I was in law school. And my first one was, I'll never forget it. It was for the Austin Statesman. It was in opposition to Senate Bill 4, which is Show Me Your Papers bill, which I knew was going to result in just a lot of people getting pulled over in the Valley and basically just asked for their citizenship, which is unacceptable. So I wrote about that. It became kind of a viral hit in the Austin scene, which is where it needed to be read, which is what I was hoping for. And ever since then, I continued writing for all sorts of places, anywhere that I could fit in to help out.
Wow, that's crazy. So would you say you're more interested in like um it sort of seems like you're more into like the statistical writing and more than fictional writing.
Yeah. So that's also kind of what I like to read too. I'm
Okay.
not a fictional reader. My reading for pleasure is actually very numbers based, which is kind of nerdy, I know. I like factual stuff, and what I read is kind of, it shows in how I write. I write heavily based on stats, numbers, things like that. And what I found is I'm writing in an area where there's a lot of strong dissenters. So there are some people who feel very strongly about immigration in a way that is opposite to me.
Yeah.
And the only way that they will ever change their mind, ever, is to face facts, to face numbers, hard statistics. And those things you can't argue with. And so very recently, I posted something from a Wall Street Journal article. Since I write on immigration, I get lots of comments, tons. I almost never read them because I know what they are, right? There'll be lots of hate comments, things like that, either directed at me or the people I write about. Um, I frequently get called, an affirmative action acceptance to Harvard or whatever, and like I'm smiling because like it happens so often. It's like really, truly whatever. And I don't mind these things, but I know that like towards the beginning, it was kind of jarring to see people go there. Um, Now 3 years into writing all this stuff, it's not even, doesn't faze me. But like, I posted the comment that the person had written about me on LinkedIn because I thought, so many people go through this, and unlike me, they don't get it all the time, and they haven't learned to deal with it in a way that I have because I deal with it so often. And I wanted to show them why I don't let these things faze me anymore. Well, one is because, and the first reason I posted the comment is because I wanted people to see that they're not alone. For the most part, when you get these comments, you're not like jonesing to tell people, you're not like super excited to show people that somebody has called you an affirmative action acceptance or affirmative action hire. So I wanted to show people that they were not alone. And then two, I wanted to show them that, it's not them who has the problem. It's the person that's using these comments. They're the ones that have this fear that's kind of fueling their insecurity. And people really, really reacted to that. And I feel like maybe that was one of the first times for a lot of people. I had so many messages, comments from people telling me that this was the first time they had read something like this, and they felt so empowered, or like, and they shared with me their stories of this stuff. So I was happy to share it. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I'm getting into as of late. And also, when I was at Deva Voice, I was not allowed to write for the most part. You have to pass. Well, I was, but you have to get all your stuff approved by like their general counsel's office and such. There's no way I would have gotten an immigration article passed through the general counsel's office, It's too inflammatory of a topic. But now that I'm at Amplo, I'm encouraged to like take these stands and to, to say what I think.
Yeah, well, that's awesome that Amplo is doing that, and they're giving you like sort of self autonomy to sort of write about subjects that you should be writing about. It's stuff that shouldn't be, kept quiet or anything like that, because the more you bring awareness to this, the more, the more people that are aware to it, the higher the probability that the problem's going to get solved, right? If there's more people having the awareness of it. So that's absolutely crazy that you like, you're Harvard, you're a writer, then you're at Amplo. So it seems like you're a huge writer though. Like you really love writing.
Well, see, I don't love writing as much as I love the topic that I write about. So I'm heavily involved in immigration. So my first big deal that I was responsible for at Amplo, that means I brought him in, was a company called LegalPad that I sit on the board of. They are a work visa automation company. I absolutely love them. I totally understand what they do. I love the space that they're in. And basically what they're doing is they're making the process, their whole goal as a company is to eventually turn the process from, a 9-month to 12-month ordeal to push button, get visa. That's their whole goal for people that are qualified, for people that are coming to the United States. And I absolutely loved that. I thought what they were doing was great. And so that was the first deal I brought to Amplo, and we led their Series A. So that was awesome.
Yeah, that sounds awesome that you get to do something that you're passionate about as well, right? It's not just like, your work is work. It's something that you're passionate about and fulfilled about. So that's awesome. So what made you want to go into Harvard Law if you have like you sort of have like all these different areas that you're really interested in? You're writing. What made you go into Harvard Law instead of like maybe a writing, like a writing degree or something like that, or into like business, like a bit like a business management degree or something?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up. My dad was a lawyer. My dad was my biggest hero, and I always wanted to be like him. So whatever he did, I wanted to do, and I didn't really. I mean, so he passed away when I was 18. I was just going into college, undergrad, and there wasn't a lot of structure as far as like where to go, what to choose. I was going to business school the year after. So I transferred into the business school from from the College of Liberal Arts at UT. I'd actually, really interesting story. I was denied from the UT Business School before they let me into their honors program the year after. So that's interesting story there. But I went to law school because I felt like that's what I always wanted to do since I was a kid. I still use my law degree. I don't use it as much as like a litigator or somebody else, but I have to read through contracts for Amplo. I have to revise term sheets and stuff, and that's all kind of what a lawyer does on the transactional side. But that's the reason I did it. I don't regret it at all. I learned so much. I met so many great people. And I feel like there's so many things I learned that I'll be able to apply for the rest of my life. Maybe not in a court of law, but definitely in life.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the thing with from what I've heard from other people is that like when you go to, let's say, one of these Ivy League schools, is it's like you get a really good network of the next, like, the next generation of leaders that are coming out and starting businesses and they're gonna be directors of firms and all this other
Yeah.
stuff. So like if you have that network from the ground level, and then you guys can grow together and stuff. So that, that
Really
that's pretty interesting.
interesting story. I went to a classmate of mine, so the year above me. I mean, Sheol Tile, the founder of Amplo, was a 3L when I was a 1L. That's how I met him. He was at Harvard. And so he was coming off of leading the seed practice at NEA, and that's when I met him. And he was just, forming up Amplo. I think Amplo had been around for a year or so when I came on to write. But even, I guess, similarly as crazy as that, have you heard of the company called Evisort? Or it's called Evisort?
No, I haven't.
Yes, so they're a contract AI management software, and they're awesome. I mean, they're killing it. They're one of the few legal tech companies that I think have not only like done well or like survived through COVID, but they've actually accelerated. They've done better just because of how their software works, and I can explain that later. But the founder is a guy named Jerry Ting. I went to law school with him. Or Jerry Ting and Jake Sussman. They were the year above me. And I knew them, I knew these guys. They were just hilarious dudes who I thought were, they like me, they were law school haters, and in that like they didn't care to be at the top of the law school class. They just wanted to do what they were going to do. And they're here at Harvard to like make a name for themselves in other ways that didn't involve the law.
Yeah.
And I really associated with that. I would like to think that they're kind of trailblazing thinking for me because I was surrounded by people who cared so deeply about their grades and the things like that. To see these guys care about things that didn't involve grades, it was kind of career altering for me. And so that was kind of what set me up. I didn't really care about grades as much as I did about doing the things that I cared about. And so,
Yeah.
but yeah, he went on to start Evisort. They raised recently a $15 million Series A.
Wow.
And he started that while at Harvard Law School.
Wow.
He's absolutely.
So that's the perks of having, when you go to these schools, is having like, it's not just like the education that you're getting, it's the people that the quality people that you're meeting that are most likely probably going to go on to do something very successful in, some sort of field or industry out there. So having those networks is really useful. So I sort of want to jump to, we touched on a lot of like interesting stuff, and with with your writing and Harvard and all that sort of stuff. So I sort of want to talk more about the writing and how, like, what are your sort of future goals with the writing and stuff?
So for writing, I mean, I don't intend to ever stop. My goal is to kind of keep on going and to keep writing about things that I think are important. So immigration would be one. I love my current job as a venture associate. So like I want to write more about venture and the things that I come across. So those are the things I would hope to write, more about those two topics. And so,
Okay.
and I kind of see myself maybe moving into like being more of a contributor at a few places. So I'm a contributor at law.com. I write for on legal tech, and which is a huge area of interest for me. Legal tech, reg tech, both. And then of course I wanted to write more about just general startup stuff, and I'm writing for Built In now. I recently published an article about a concept I've deemed the instant payback period. So yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. So, uh, okay, yeah, yeah. So some other questions that I have is, so you went to a law firm and you sort of found that, law, like, you didn't really like the type of work that you were doing there, and then so you went into the venture capital scene.
Yeah.
What do you like most about the venture capital scene?
So I love that every day is absolutely different, and I get to talk to people that are super excited about what they're doing. Every single day, I talk to people that are incredibly passionate about the stuff they're working on. Every single day, I get to talk to people that are working on groundbreaking problems, and I get to learn something new. Seriously, every single day. And so it's been great. And then on top of that, I think that my work situation is also really great in that it's a two-man investing team. It's me and Sheil. And Sheil has been super generous about giving me a lot of autonomy to do things like go on a podcast and like write articles and to source my own companies and define new opportunities for Amplo. It's not like at a law firm where I sat down and I was given 30 assignments. I go make my own assignments, and he trusts that I'm going to go do that. Also, just generally, I mean, working for the guy is incredible. I mean, he's a venture legend, and I get to learn from him every single day. And he's young, but he has a lot of wisdom. So I'm happy that I get to learn from
Yeah, yeah, but I looked into, because I looked into Amplo just to gain a little bit more like insight to sort of the company you work for, and I saw the Shield and what he, like you said, he was at Harvard. So how do you know how he actually came about the idea to go into venture capital as well?
So yeah, I mean, he's spoken with me about it a number of times. I mean, what he saw is that venture capital is one of the most powerful means of social change that we have available to us. So if we believe that capitalism in itself, in some form or fashion, is a good way for us to operate, which it seems like we will for the foreseeable future, um, that means that venture will always be, as long as that is true, a really powerful mean for social change. And what that means is like he gives this really great story of a company that moved into Africa to make cell phones or to make cell phones accessible to people. Before that, a person whose child was hurt would have to walk into the street and ask their neighbors to get a phone to give them a ride to the hospital. Now they can just pick up the phone and call people to help come and help them, right? So that changed a whole continent. And that was just one set of entrepreneurs. Of course, we see things like Facebook, we see things like Google. Those were all started by startup entrepreneurs. So we see the ability to change how we live day to day, the ability to change how we do things that are meaningful to us, and the ability to really change quality of life for people at the ground level through venture capital. And so that's why he moved from the startup world to venture capital stuff. And I think he's been able to invest in some super meaningful companies. Uh, Robinhood is, I would say, not only largely successful, but I would say behavior changing. They were the first people to really come out and make commission-free trading a huge thing. And so, like when they did, that was a big deal for that space, and it was it was changing for that space to have
Yeah.
commission-free trading, and it really democratized who had access to those kinds of things.
Awesome, awesome. Well, that is also another incredible story. Yeah, like, yeah, just hearing more about you and more about Amplo and Sheila and all what you guys are doing. That's incredible to hear about. So I sort of want to jump a little bit more into the venture capital. So how do you guys, from my point of view, I know very little about venture capital, but to, let's say, somebody out there that's maybe in the they're in university or college or high school and they're listening to this podcast and they're like, I don't really know that much about venture capital, but it sounds pretty interesting. Like from what you've said so far, it sounds amazing. Being able to, have meetings with very interesting entrepreneurs and startups, and help them fund their journey to grow their business. So what would you say about somebody that's wanting to get into the venture capital scene?
So for someone that wants to get into the venture capital scene, I've had this conversation a few times, with people that want to come in. What's unfortunate is that a lot of getting into venture capital is luck. I did not, like most people that went into Harvard Law School, I came into Harvard Law School with every intention of being a lawyer. I had no idea that venture capital was even a job I could do until I met Shield. So like, it's a lot of luck. It's a lot of, you know, fortune, but for those who are willing to like take that gamble and do whatever, there are some things that you can do to make you more likely to get a job in venture capital than others. And one of those things is if you're a student where you have a job that is letting you do things outside of the job, you should highly, highly look into working as a free intern or a very low paid intern for one of these funds. Now, the reason I say free or low paid, I know that that's kind of stifling for a lot of people, but a lot of students can make it work. A lot of people that have jobs that give them a little bit of free time can make it work. You don't have to work for them 40 hours a week. You just have to do a little bit of projects here and there because it's so hard to break in that unless you have some sort of like free experience where they're teaching you, it's impossible to start off with like a paid gig in venture unless you know somebody really well or you already have that connection. So that's kind of what I did. When I started at Amplo, I was a student and I was willing to work for basically nothing because I was a student. I wanted to kind of see what venture was like. And so I did. And that kind of led to my job. I wasn't wealthy by any means. I was a student and I was kind of living on student loans. I wasn't, it definitely wasn't wealthy, but I knew that I could make the time, especially if, what this guy was doing was worth it. And so I learned quickly on that this was awesome and I loved it. So I knew roughly a few months in that I wanted to do this as a career. I loved it. And so I kept going. And it's worth it for anyone to try it out for a couple months and to see if that's what you really want to pursue, keep going. And you'll get those credentials. So people like, a firm like Amplo doesn't want to hire someone to come on as an analyst and pay them money if they don't already know, what's EBITDA, what is burn rate, what are these things? If we're going to teach you those things, it's going to be hard for us to like justify paying you to come on. And a lot of venture funds think the same because they run very, very lean. They run super lean. So getting those internships, getting that knowledge is critical. So that way you can get a paid position when you graduate because it's so hard to not do that. It's so hard to come in with none of that knowledge.
Okay. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. So pretty much, you'd say like, intern with these companies while you're at university, or maybe, if you get out and if you're able to get a job at another company and you're sort of wanting to you find out about venture capital and you want to get into it, really interning with them to learn the business and understand, all the terms and terminology of it. So Amplo is just you and, is it just you and Sheil right now that are just running the company?
Yeah, well, so the structure of Amplo is unique. And then, again, to the last point, you can also work for a startup. So that's another way to get into VC. So that's like an entirely separate route that I don't have a lot to speak on, but I have seen a lot of people do it very successfully, of course. And then there's people who do like the investment banking route. That's a whole thing. That's another thing. But so the way that Amplo runs is Sheil and I are part of the investment committee. So it's him and I that bring in the new opportunities, diligence them, whatever. Sheil, of course, gets the final say as to whether or not we move forward. And then on the venture partner side, so those are all the people that you'll see on our website. We got the former Prime Minister of Australia, Julie Gillard, National Security Advisor under Obama, and dark horse Vice President, presidential pick, Susan Rice on our board. Alec Rock, who's a very famous scholar and New York Times bestselling author, Lema, who's a Nobel Peace Prize winner, Vlad Tenev, the co-founder of Robinhood, Whitney Wolfe, the CEO of Bumble, Ian Carnival, the VP of Design for Andela. We also recently added the former Prime Minister of New Zealand, John Key, and singer Shawn Mendes onto our venture partners. So
That's absolutely
if
crazy.
you yeah, if we invest at a stage where we get a board member, you can pick from any one of our venture partners. So any of those folks that you see would be the best fit for your company, or you could pick me, or you could pick Sheil.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what's available to people. The reason that that structure works really well for us is because what Sheil noticed at other firms is what he would call like a board bloat, in that one person is on like 14, 15 boards, which is great if that's their full-time job. But as far as like that, the investing portion of their job, where they're going out, finding new opportunities, diligencing them, deciding whether or not they're investable, and then investing, that is a full-time job in and of itself. So if you're on 15 boards, it's hard to do both. It becomes a 24-hour a day job if you're doing that, right?
Yeah.
So what he's doing is kind of outsourcing these board positions to these incredible value add people that have a lot of political experience and a lot of business experience. They come in, they sit on the boards, they help us manage that side, and then we are on the investing side. So it helps us free up our time to go hunt down new opportunities, diligence them all the way through, and then make those investing decisions.
Oh, okay. Okay. So just from my point of view, understanding this, and maybe somebody else's, so pretty much you've partnered with these, different members, like, you've partnered with these different people, and pretty much what you do is you guys go out, find a startup or something that shows a lot of promise, and then you bring that back to these guys and see if they want to invest in that company. And then do you guys take a percentage of the investment?
Yes, of course. Amplo has a manage. Sorry, excuse me. A
Okay.
management a cut, or a portion of the carry goes to the management. Um, and the way that we do things is that normally we have these things called board presentations, where companies that we invest in get to come present to our entire board. Normally, those things happen before a big investment, or uh, when we're considering a big follow-on. So they'll come, they'll present to our board. They get to get peppered with questions. The board is usually not shy about questioning people and getting their takes on things. So it's really interesting. You have these startup people in front of Susan Rice and Julie Gillard and whatever, and they're just getting peppered with questions. and you'd be shocked. I mean, these startup founders do so well, and they're just, and that's what we're looking for. Someone that knows their business so well that they would stand in front of Susan Rice and like take a hard question from her and deliver it back well.
Yeah.
That's a high standard to meet. So if you can meet it, you're probably doing pretty well.
Yeah. Wow, yeah, that does sound pretty interesting to be involved in the venture capital. So that's pretty cool. So how did you guys actually get these partners and these partnerships? As like, because you guys are a startup as well, right? Like, I don't, like, there's not many, like, you guys sort of seem like
Yeah.
a startup as well, and you're helping other startups. So that, I think that's pretty cool and stuff. So how did you actually get these awesome relationships with other people?
Yes, so I don't want to speak too much on Shields' behalf.
Yeah.
He's the one who went out and got all these big folks. I mean, what I think what Shield has done is like I can only describe this man as a former boy genius, no longer a boy, but still very much a genius. You know, he graduated from Stanford at 19, I think, and at one point we had another associate who also did that. While we were on a call with the whole board, they went through and they kind of went through their backgrounds, like graduated from Stanford at 19, went to law school at Harvard at whatever age, and I was like, hey guys, I went to, or I graduated from college at a regular age, standard 22. So how Shield did this, I don't know particularly, but I know that he's been around. He has been successful and at the top of his game since the guy was freaking 19. So he graduated from Stanford with 2 degrees, went to go work at Skybox, then immediately went to Bessemer. So he's been successful for super long, for a very long time. And I think as a result of being really great at what he does, he gets to meet all these people at some point. And
Yeah.
they've all been equally as impressed with him as I have been. And of course, they came on after meeting him.
That, that's crazy. Yeah, you guys are both like really really young. Like you're like are you're like 28, 29 or
I'm 26.
oh you're
I know
26.
that the lack of facial hair makes me seem like I'm sub 21,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's another thing. I've been getting carded forever. I can't leave the house without my ID. I'll get carded at a PG-13 movie. I look very young.
And
I get it.
how old's Shield?
Sheil is 29.
He's 29. Yeah, holy crap. You guys are in your 20s. Yeah. So, since I started this podcast, I've had this opportunity to talk to like a lot of, amazing people such as yourself. I spoke to another guy recently, which is he's 24, 25 and has $60 million in real estate. And he started doing deals when he started doing deals when he was nine. Like his first deal was when he was 19 and he closed on two 12 unit buildings and he like raised the capital and did everything for it, which I was like, this guy's insane.
Yeah, these guys are nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, Sheil, I mean, he's on his second fund at $250 million. Things aren't looking like they're slowing down even a little bit. His little brother, who is 24, 25, I can't remember the exact age, he is like one of the founders of Frontier Car Group, which got like $100 million in funding recently. Like, I don't know what these guys' moms feeding them, but like I don't know what it is. That's what's going on. His little brother also went to Harvard at 15, like all of us. And who are these guys? At 15, I was like still figuring out how to use basic technology.
That's absolutely crazy. What? Yeah, I would if I would love to have him on the show and sort of talk about that because that's like
Yeah.
going like having like having one person in your family that does something, but having two that that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I know. I have a feeling if they had a little brother, you'd be in the running for president. If they had a younger brother, you'd be.
That's awesome.
They're unstoppable there.
That, that's crazy to hear. Yeah, but like you, yeah, like the awesome thing that I've sort of heard about from being like from like being in venture capital is you get to meet all these amazing people and have amazing conversations with all these people, which is probably a pretty fun time to pretty fun to do. So I've got just a couple more questions for you here. Are you good on time? Yeah, you're good on time. Sorry. Yeah, you're good? Okay, awesome. So, yeah, we covered a lot of stuff. We went into a lot of different areas. So what are some things that you actually don't like about the industry? Venture capital seems really, really fun, and it seems like you get to do a lot of incredible stuff, but what are sort of the cons to it?
Yeah, real easy one. The industry is 2% Hispanic or Black, and that's just kind of how it is. It's that way for a number of reasons. What I said at the beginning, a lot of Hispanic or Black people cannot take the opportunity or the chance to work for free for a couple months, and that's a really big, that's a big deal because that's a big way to break in. And if you can't do that, it's tough. So ways that I've been looking to combat that, and I've been talking to a ton of Hispanic kids that want to come into venture. I've been telling them exactly what to do. I've been referring them to other people. I've been mentoring them myself, introducing them to startups, trying to get them paid positions that I think would be very helpful for them, or teaching them enough to the point where they could come on as a paid person immediately. So that's kind of what I've been trying to do to remedy that situation. Of course, I'm just one guy. I can't fix the whole industry, but
Yeah.
I can help one person at a time at least.
Well,
But that's
that,
one of the cons of the industry.
yeah,
Yeah,
that is really awesome that you're doing that. That you're not, you you've made it to the point where you're at a venture capital firm and now you're taking the time to actually help the next people, get get up and get into the venture capital scene, or maybe somewhere else into like the startup sector. So that's awesome that you're doing that, man.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to bring people in and to help them out and stuff. Yeah, and that's one of the big problems. And as a result, I mean, I'm lucky that I have someone like Sheil who's really gracious with his time and helps me and mentors me. But for a lot of Hispanic or Black people, it's not easy to find someone who relates to them, to find somebody who can just talk with them, because it's hard to find that connection. So of course, in my own way, I'm trying to serve as that connection as often as I can. But it isn't, it's something that will take years of trials or, of trying for this to be fixed. Years, maybe decades, who knows?
Yeah, that that that's crazy that we're still in like we're still in a time that this is still a problem, right?
Yeah, so it's, maybe the people aren't upfront, like they're not like overtly like, I'm not going to hire that guy because he's Hispanic, but it does shake out that way. And what I mean by that is like, because you're from a Hispanic area, you don't have the same opportunities. So you never even get to the point where I saw a person who was in venture capital. Had I never met Sheil, I probably would have never worked in this job. I had no idea it even existed. So like there are people who from a very young age know that venture capital is the thing they can do. I didn't know that. So like, I feel like it's a lot about exposure. It's a lot about getting the word out. It's a lot about getting people in the right position to take these opportunities. And so like, isn't it, and that's the tough part, right? It's not like from an overt thing. It's not from people saying they don't want Black people or they don't want Hispanic people. It's from a mismatch of opportunities. And so that's what we need to solve for. And that takes some affirmative effort. It's not enough to like, say you don't hate people that are of color. It's now we have to offer them more opportunities or else it will never fix it.
Yeah. Those are some great points too. Those are some great points. So, transitioning to another part, what are sort of your future goals right now with writing, venture capital, other things that are going on in your life? Maybe not in the craziness of your business life and writing all that sort of stuff. What are some personal goals that you have?
Oh man, I want to sit on some more boards of the companies that we bring in. I love working with them, especially in these close capacities. We just brought on another company. I hope to sit as an observer for them because I love working with these folks. They're awesome. Really energizing to hear what they're working on and how things are going. I hope to write more about immigration. I hope to really make a change. And the most recent Wall Street Journal article was the most popular opinion on their page for, I think, about 36 hours. And it was the third most popular article in the entire Wall Street Journal for the day, which was, I was very proud of that, of course, personally, but also, like on the inside, I was super excited that so many people had read it. Because, there's a good chance that like a real decision maker read that piece and, maybe it spoke to them because it was all factual. It wasn't about emotion. It was about, this is the right thing. The numbers dictate it, and so do what you can with this information.
Yeah.
So that's what I was really excited about. And so that's what I want to do more of is writing those pieces and getting them in front of the people who make the decisions. So it's not just about a really impactful piece that people will respond to. It's about writing a piece that people will respond to and it gets in front of decision makers. So, it's not only a topic of conversation for the day, it's also something that can act on like right now, which I would really like to do.
Awesome. Those are some awesome goals, and that's pretty cool. So, what so what other things do you do besides like sitting on all these boards and writing all these incredible like posts and all this other stuff? Like, do you play any sports? Do you do like any other
Yeah.
hobbies at all? Or?
So I'm actually, I mean, in non-Corona times, I would be super excited because it's almost the start of the NFL. season. I'm the world's biggest Detroit Lions fan, and I did say that correctly. So my dad was from Detroit, and he raised me a Lions fan. And so I've always had an affinity for the team. I've loved them ever since. But I took a picture with the live lion in a Lions T-shirt, and and I think I was like something like the fan of the month for that month because I was the only person willing to risk my life for the Lions, even though they were, I think, like 8-8 that season, or 6-9 or whatever, right? Um, yeah, so I've been a huge Lions fan. I'm an enormous fan. I love football. I love watching it. Um, I would say outside of that, there's not a ton, but I mean, I love just kind of hanging out. I'm a big joker. Oh yeah, I've also become really big in the attorney memes
Oh,
world.
oh yeah.
I make a ton of memes because I love. I mean, even when I was an attorney, I really enjoyed messing with people,
Yeah.
and I really enjoyed joking. And I took that one step further and started making memes about it, and they've been really well received, fortunately.
That,
And
that's
so
awesome.
I love bringing humor in that area.
Wow, that's awesome, man. That's pretty cool that you have all these different interests, and yeah, that's awesome. So, my last actually question to you is, actually, what is I sort of try and ask this to every single guest I have is sort of, what does happiness mean to you?
Doing something that's fulfilling and just generally being excited every day. I mean, or being excited. You're doing something that's fulfilling and being excited. I'm a pretty excitable guy. I get excited for almost anything. So that's not a high bar for me. But being fulfilled, that means that I'm doing something that I really care about. And I'm really fortunate to be in a job that's incredibly fulfilling.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the show. It's been amazing talking with you. You're a
Thank
very smiley guy, and
you. Appreciate it.
yeah, it's awesome.
It's all I actually am. I smile a lot. It's just kind of what I do.
Yeah, you just have like permagrin. Yeah, so hearing your story, hearing the articles that you've written on these subjects, working at the venture capital firm and the helping the next generation get into the venture capital is awesome, and it's awesome to hear about. Is there anything else that you want to add before we end?
I think that's all I got for now.
Okay,
But yeah, really, thank you for having me on. I really I appreciate. I love this whole experience. This is
awesome,
my
awesome.
first podcast, so yeah,
Yeah,
this
well,
is cool.
I think you'll do a lot. I think you'll do a lot more of podcasts. I think a lot more people will want to have you on their show. That's awesome.
I
Uh,
appreciate it.
actually, before we actually end, where can people actually find more about you and actually the firm, the venture capital firm that you work for?
Yeah, so you can look us up, amplovc.com. You could also just add me on LinkedIn. That's a really easy way to get to me. Or I mean, I guess any of the various social media platforms. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I don't really tweet much. But yeah, you could find me on any of those, and I'd probably be very responsive to a message. I try to be. So
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you, Sam.
yeah, thanks for having me on.